Good evening. Welcome to Calumet Public School District 132 School Board Meeting, April 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. John, roll call.
Yes, Brown, absent. Dixon, Golar, absent.
No.
Oh,
He's here.
oh, he's. I'm here. Okay. All right. Kimbrough, Love,
Here.
Story, absent. Harris.
Present.
All right.
Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of agenda. Suggested hereby move that the Board of Education approve the agenda for April 2024 regular session as presented. May I have a motion? And second? Dixon.
All right. Brown, absent. Dixon, Golar, Kimbrough, Love,
Yes.
Story, absent. Harris.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Superintendent's report?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, community. Tonight we have a few presentations under the superintendent report. First, we will begin with the Academic Services Department, Ms. Bates, giving an update on spring break camp.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you to the school board and the district for allowing us to have just a wonderful, safe, nurturing environment for our children during spring break. For those who attended, had loads of fun. I also want to do a big shout out to the Calumet Park District for allowing us to be there that week, and also to the fire department who came by, as you can see at the title, on the pictures, came by and allowed our children to have some hands-on learning. This year, we had a goal of 75 students, and within a week, we had over 100 students who signed up. And in that time, we had to make some adjustments just because the demand was great. But also due to the weather, as you know, it rained, it was cold, our numbers averaged about 66 each day. Our students had the pleasure of working with Workplace Enterprise, who's out of Matson. It's a company that provide after school and summer care, and they've been in business for over 30 years. They've partnered with us, it's their second year partnering with us to allow our children to have some really incredible hands-on learning and in a safe environment. So again, this is some of the background I just shared with you. And we did provide not only breakfast and lunch, but transportation. And of course, the favorite was the dismissal snacks. Our children enjoyed that opportunity. They had sign language, they had math, they had reading, they had planting. They all went home with plants. They learned how to laugh. The last day was about laughter, so they had to laugh. Their theme this year was a man in the mirror, and they took time out to learn what that meant. So our children were engaged. We had our own staff along with administrators there daily. And of course, one of our nursing staff was there with us as well. So here's what we learned. Our students enjoyed every minute. They asked for seconds, even third servings for the catered food we had. Our students enjoyed the hands-on learning, as I mentioned, and the experience of math and science and structured play. You know, some of our children didn't know how to jump rope. And you say, wow, that's something they should know how to do. Jump rope, play ball. So we did all that inside, again, as I mentioned, because of the weather. And they had all of this energy and enthusiasm. They were appreciative of being there. We had 4 of our own staff members, and of course, Work Study Enterprise had 4 of their adult members. We had security on staff as well as administrative team. So it was definitely a supportive environment from the time they entered until the time they left. So these are some of the pictures. They also had singing every single day. The sign language, they also had a talent show. They played musical chairs. I didn't know how they were gonna get 66 students and lined up in musical chairs, but they did it. And the simple things that we take for granted, our children had an opportunity to enjoy. Here are some of the feedbacks from the parent survey that I think is very important. It says, my kids really enjoy spring break camp. Hope they have something like this for the summer. The program was great for our children. It says, my child was tired every day from all the fun they had and the large meals they had every day. Please continue this program. And that's, can you back up, go back? So that's them in the musical chairs. How that managed, I don't know, but Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell just did a phenomenal job, and the children remembered them from last year. So again, Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell called because they had planned on being here. They would like to come and say thank you to the board and to the district. But again, Works-Ready Enterprise, their commitment, and Mr. Jonathan Shaw, I can't say enough for how he just opened the doors immediately. He even said, I was waiting for you to call. So again, thank you to the community of Calumet, the Rec Center, and the staff. They were wonderful. And thank you to the board for allowing us to have this awesome program.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, community.
Good evening.
Our next presentation will be an update to the Calumet gym. As you as you can see, the gym building has gone up. It looks amazing on the outside, but what you don't know, the inside is just mind-blowing. All of the walls are up. The floors are up. It looks like a real building. I really can't wait to show our community the great work that our contractors have been doing. And it really makes me excited because it shows what we can do when we put our minds together as a school community. So tonight, our presentation is going to look primarily at the funding plan. I was asked to share this information with the board. So board, what I'm handing to you is just a spreadsheet of the cost breakdown of what we have spent so far on the gym. This slide was presented to the board originally when we decided to do this program. And it talks about where the money's coming from. So it's really a 3-year plan from school year 22 to school year 25 on how we're going to raise the money for this. I'm happy to announce that we did not have to increase property taxes, nor do we have to sell any bonds or for the district to go in debt for us to do this project. Part of the project was done using COVID relief funds through the ESSER 2 grant, as well as through the COVID relief funds of ESSER 3. And what that means is we spent both $1.7 million out of both of those grants, so a total of $3.4 million from grant money, which means the district spends their money, the grant reimburses us. So essentially, it's a net zero. It's like you got it without spending any money. We have already expended all of the ESSER 2 as well as the ESSER 3, and that $3.4 million has already come back to our district's fund balance. That's a great thing. That means that our district, we're operating fiscally sound, and that this project is not going to put the district in a bad spot. Outside of the grant money, we utilized a large portion of state funding that we receive each year. So for fiscal years 22, 23, 23, 24, and 24, 25, which is an upcoming school year, $1.7 million has been allocated each year to cover this cost. And what that means is that every year the state gives us over $10 million for state aid. And that's to supplement the money that comes from local property taxes. And so part of that money was allocated to fund this building. The remaining part, which is in yellow, is a local school district match. And what that means is that's money that's been accumulated in the district's fund balance or savings account over time. And so because the money is already owned by the district, we don't have to go out and get more. We don't have to raise taxes, sell bonds. So the total project comes up to about $11.1 million. And in the next slide, we will discuss what that looks like. But the good thing about it, most of that project came from the state and federal funding. So it's not coming from our local. So here is the spreadsheet of all of the payments that have been made and the funding source. So in the first column, actually it's the third column that says ESSER 2 in yellow, you see the money that was spent this fiscal year. Now, as I said, it was a total of 1.7 million. However, just under 500,000 was spent in the previous year. So this is just looking at this year. So the 1.7 million from ESSER 2, the 1.7 million from ESSER 3 has been expended. And now, as of early March, we've started to tap into the local match. So if you look at the bottom of the spreadsheet, the total cost comes up to $11,045,160. And that total cost is $10,227,000, which is the contracted amount, what it actually costs the architects to build the building, and then, the contractors, what it costs to build a building, and then the architect, engineer, and other fees, which is valued at 8% of the total contract, and that gives you the total of $11 million. So as you can see, we've already paid out a total of $4.2 million, and we have a balance of $6.8 to pay. So we pay usually a bill every month, and that bill is around $1 million, sometimes just under. And what that allows the contractors to do is to pay their people immediately. So we're not in debt, we don't have liens on our property, which means that we'll pay at the very end and they're gonna withhold some of the work till we do it. And we pay as we move along, it's certified by the district's architect, and then we pay it. The building is expected to be done August 1st. So that means that by the end of September, we should have made the final payments for this building. Are there any questions from the board?
Yeah.
Ms. Story?
Just a quick question. We allocated 10 million. Is did that go over the cost because of the addition for the storage space?
Yes.
That 10 million?
Yes.
So, cause what the allocation was what? The gym down here was the 10,227,000? Am I looking at that right?
The 10,227,000, it was three parts of the contract. The main gym, the fence was the second addition, and then the storage area was the third part. So the board approved all three. The original contract price for just the gym by itself was $9 million. It was less than the 10.
Right.
And the architect recommended that we go and do everything at once so that we didn't have to come back. So our overall purchase price is $10.2 million with all construction, and then your fees, which are rated at a percentage, which go to your architect and your engineer, that's at 8%.
So are we on the right track so we won't go over this 11 million?
We're actually gonna come in under.
Under that.
We're gonna come in under. When they estimate the cost, a lot of it has to do with supply chain. So when they priced this out back in October, November 2023, the cost of materials was at one point. The shipping and handling was at one point. So now supply chain is moving, things are in stock, you don't have to pay as much. In addition to that, they've been able, because we had an amazing winter, they've never stopped working. So usually in Chicago, once the snow comes and it gets really cold, they have to stop. They didn't have to do that, so that saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were able to keep going. And the fact that we're able to keep going, we don't have to pay storage fees on materials and furniture when it comes in. So I'm excited about that. We've also made some mid-course adjustments as it relates to furniture. more cost-effective furniture, than what was originally proposed. So as of right now, we are below the, 10.27. And so consequently, the allowance for your architect and engineers, that number is gonna decrease as well. It's 8% of whatever your cost is. That 8% right now, is listed at the total value of 10.2 million. But let's say that number goes down to 9,700,000, then that 8% would lower as well. So that's a savings to the district.
And then another question, I read somewhere that we have 2 consultants for this, DLA and then DM. There's something with DM. It's not on here, I thought I read it in an email or something.
DM,
Consultant, no?
DLA is our architect,
Mhm.
and Robinson is the engineers. So that's the only 2 people who work on the project.
Any consultant?
No.
And I'll look at it now, just
Yeah, let me know
that.
what you see.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just to clarify, so the ESSER money is ARPA money, or is that separate?
Say that again.
So the ESSER is federal,
Yes.
is that right? And then you talked about a reserve that could be tapped into, is that for this project solely? Or is it for any capital project that the school district is?
It's the district's money. So however you decide to budget the district's money, that's what you can utilize it for.
So there are other projects that could be in competition with these funds, possibly, is what I think I'm hearing you say.
No, I'm gonna say no, there's no competition because this is already budgeted. However, we do have a surplus of funds, so to speak, that the district could utilize for other projects. But this is budgeted and allocated already.
And so something happens to the gym after it's built, something caves in or something, you're saying that there's some capital reserve, is that what you're saying?
Well, if something happens to the building, we have insurance and warranties, so we shouldn't have to pay. Now, let's say that a tornado comes and rips this end of the building. We would use insurance, whatever warranties we have on the building, and then if there's anything else that the district has to bear the cost, then yes, we would tap into our fund balance.
That's what you're saying. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. You can leave those. I got one more. So my last presentation is part of, oh, I gotta do it again. Part of our budget, there we go. Part of our budget process is that we look at, in phases. So we look at our revenues, our expenditures, and then we come up with our total budget. So as we embark on school year 24-25, as I've stated previously to the board and to the community, the financial landscape of education has changed. For the past, since 2020, so that's the past 4 years, we've lived in a world with COVID where schools were heavily subsidized, especially schools like ours, low income, high poverty. Schools were subsidized heavily by the federal government with additional funds to support the districts and schools to bounce back after the pandemic. So all of the pandemic money is gone. ESSER 1, ESSER 2, ESSER 3 ends for the country on September 30th. All of our ESSER funds are just about gone. The gym took up most of it. And then our science lab project this summer is going to deplete the rest. So those ESSER funds, again, it's a reimbursement model. You spend your district's money, you file an expenditure report within 30 days, the government gives you your money back. So it benefits the district to utilize this funds because you can get a whole lot of stuff done, capital improvements. We were able to renovate this library as well as every other library in the district, new Chromebooks, renovations to the kitchen. So it was to our advantage to take advantage. It was to our benefit to take advantage of these grants. Essentially, it's a wash. You spend your money, get everything you need, the government reimburses you. It doesn't impact your bottom line. And so now that we're getting to the point where COVID is over, we have to reimagine what budgeting and what finance for our district looks like. So this year, this presentation today is about revenues, the money that we bring into the district. And here's how our budget essentially is being built. Here's the revenue assumptions. So for local funding, so there's three functions of government that support schools. Your local, which comes from your property taxes, your state funding, which is supplemental funding that comes from the State Board of Education, and then federal funding, which comes from the U.S. Department of Ed, that looks to support special needs. So that's low income, that's Title I, our Title III, which is for our bilingual population. Those funds look to support districts that have additional need. So when we talk about our assumption, this is what we walk into the door knowing about the budget. Your local property taxes, because District 132 has accepted the property tax relief grant in both 2022 and 2023, the amount of property taxes that comes to the district is going to be decreased because our district had to abate it. And so we received the property tax relief grant, and what that is the state government says, we're going to give you most of the money that you would get in your taxes up front, versus you having to wait to get them from your taxpayers. But you have to give money back to the community. So if you look at your tax bills, your tax bills will show that you paid District 132 less money for 2022 and 23. Now remember, your tax bills are a year late. So what year is this? 24, you're now just paying back 23. And when we do the grant, it's a year behind. So the grant is impacted for 2023 and 2024. You'll see that in 2024 and 2025. It's confusing, all right? I have to write it down so I can keep myself together. But essentially what it says is the number of property taxes you get as a district is going to be lower. The other thing is our property tax collection rate, meaning after they've taxed every individual home and business in Calumet Park and our slither of Blue Island, after they've taxed them all, we're used to seeing about 80 to 84% of people that actually pay their taxes. So there's a difference between what we owe versus what we actually get. So that number prior to COVID was between 83, 84%. After COVID, there were a lot of different concessions made because people were really struggling, right? We lost jobs, lost home, lost family. So loss of income means that Cook County had to put concessions in place. They allowed you to pay your taxes later. They allowed you to pay your taxes in increments. That has an impact on the school. So we do not collect 100% of our property taxes. This year, we're projected to collect about 73%. So that's even less than we were expecting over time. When we look at state funding, because we received the property tax relief grant, the amount of revenues we get is going to be the same from last year. So that's a positive. That amount is over $10 million. I'll show that in a couple of slides. Transportation claims, which is the state reimburses school districts for what we pay on transportation. That means busing our students to and from school. As you can imagine, that's a lot of money. Think about one school bus who runs a route is about $300 a day. Back and forward, one route, we're in school 176 days, and we have 5 buses that do regular education, and we have 2 buses that do special. So transportation is a heavy burden for the district. However, we do get reimbursement from the state. Now, because the state has their own financial issues, we don't receive 100% reimbursement. We've received in the 80s. We're projecting that number to be a little bit less this year. So we're projecting transportation claims to be prorated to about 78%. CPPRT, that's corporate replacement property tax. And what that is, that's a way that the state taxes businesses additionally to support your schools. During COVID, that number skyrocketed. Inflation skyrocketed, everything went up. Now we're back on the downslope of life. So CPPRT decreases. Federal funding, all of our COVID money is gone. We had ESSER grants, we had other, what's the word? I've been here too long, I can't think. Competitive grants, that's it. We had other competitive grants that our district wrote and was awarded that were related to COVID. So all of the money for COVID is gone. And then, so that's a major deduction to our district's budget. That's over $4 million that comes out of our district's budget that we were used to having. Our Title I, II, and IV, that's the money that comes from the federal government to support special populations. That number is decreased because enrollment goes down. In the next slide, I'm going to show you our enrollment for the past few years, and you're going to see the trend. So keep in mind that every student per the state and the federal government, a certain amount of money is allocated to the district for them. So, but the problem is, as our enrollment goes down, that means that the amount of money we bring in go down. On the flip side, what keeps going up? Bills, salaries, benefits, the cost of food, the cost of gas. So we're faced with a problem where, and this is not just District 132, it's really the whole country. Enrollment's going down while bills and everything else are going up. So that's why we have to reimagine what budgeting looks like. We gotta be really smart because we want to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money, but two, we wanna make sure that we don't go in a hole and have to sacrifice quality programming and services to the district. The last thing is carryover money. And what that means is we usually look forward to not spending all of our grants so that we can roll some of that money over into the new year. Well, this year, we've maximized all of our grants. So the grants that we usually have a lot of money to roll over, our Title I, which is low income, and Title II, which is teacher quality, that money is going to be really limited that we roll over because we spent it this year. So all of these assumptions go into how we plan and prepare for the upcoming year. So here's the trend in enrollment. Let's go down to 2018, the very bottom. In 2018, we had 1,112 students. Let's go where we are right now in 2024. Our enrollment is actually up this year, way higher than it was in 23, with 907 students, but we're still not where we were 7 years ago. We look at the projections for 2025. Our enrollment is expected to dip again. We had a larger 8th grade class. So you have to look at the 8th grade class that goes out compared to the kindergarten class that goes in. And what we've noticed in the last few years, the kindergarten class gets smaller and smaller. I'm not sure if people are not having as many children or the children go to other schooling programs or daycares, but the number of kindergartners has shrank. So we're projecting a slight decrease of enrollment for next school year. That slight decrease of enrollment has an impact on what funding looks like. Remember, the higher your income, the higher your enrollment, the more money you receive for the year. So next year, this is our budget. This is where we're budgeted for next year. And actually, I see a mistake. I'm gonna fix that. I'm sorry. This is where we are budgeting for next year. So remember when I said that because of the COVID money, that's an automatic $4+ million out of our budget. Next slide, you'll see what our budget was for fiscal year 24. That's this year. Next year, you'll see 25. So this is looking at the main funding sources of our district. Local funding in red, which brings about 29%, so that comes from property taxes and other business taxes. Your state funding brings in about 63%. That's your evidence-based funding, which is based on the amount of each student. Your transportation reimbursements, your food service reimbursements. In green, you don't see that in the pie chart because that's all gone. All of the CARES money related to COVID is gone. And then in purple, those are your federal grants. And our federal grant capacity, we get the same fundamental entitled grants, which means the money that we get automatically, we're entitled to it. But all of the competitive grants that we've had in previous years, we no longer have access to. So with all of these assumptions in mind, our budget as it relates to revenue is $17,769,000. So when you start with your revenues, that lets you know this is all we have to operate the school year. We can't deficit spend because then that could potentially put the district in the negative. right? Even though we have money saved, we want to live within our means. So keep that number 17,769,000 in your mind. We want to live within our means. So here's a comparison of what the budgets have looked like over the last 4 years. If you go back to fiscal year 21, that's the year around COVID. And then you keep moving, you see how the numbers keep increasing. Well, we started to receive the COVID money, all of those additional grants, so our budgets for the district were inflated. Fiscal year 24, which is this year, this is our district's highest budget at 21 million. A lot of that is money that we're using to spend to pay for the gym. Now, fiscal year 25, we're going back to almost pre-COVID conditions. So here's the reality. Our district can effectively work off of $17 million. We've done it before. What's different is the cost of goods and services is different in 2024-25 than it was in 2020-21. Salaries are higher, benefits are higher, but the reality is that we have less students as well. So again, we have to be very conscious on how we spend money. In a few presentations, actually think next, we have our auditor who's gonna come up and pretty much give us the presentation of our spending for the year and our financial health. So here is just a brief overview of the grants that we will receive this upcoming year. And I've already talked about it, but essentially, you look at the normal allocation, which comes up to about 1.3 million. And then we look at what's being carried over, the amount that wasn't spent this year that we take to next year. It's only about $100,000. In the past few years, we've taken over millions because we had a surplus of grants, so we were able to carry more over. So essentially, our federal grants are almost bare bones to where we used to be. So let's talk about fund balances. So this is the reserve that I was talking about. And this looks at the district's financial health since 2017, fiscal year 2017. The first thing you will notice is that our district, through effective leadership and strategic budgeting, has increased its fund balances every single year. Excuse me. And what that means is the school district savings account is looking really good. You bring in more money than you spend, you effectively, the money that you do have, you spend it wisely, and you make good decisions. So for fiscal year 23, which was last year, up through this year, you're gonna see a significant increase. Well, let's go back to 22, which ended July 30, 2022. So from July 22 to right now, our fund balance has increased well over $4 million. Part of that is because we've spent money with grants and we've received reimbursements. But other parts of it is that we've done things differently, where it's very cost effective in how we spend. We spend money on what's important. Everything has to be a priority, right? So that's how you keep your district in great health. I'm sure our auditor will concur that District 132 is in absolute financial health. But you have to be very smart and keep your finger on the pulse if you want to stay there. So what are our next steps? At the May board meeting, we will be presenting the expenditures and the completed budget. Our individual departments are currently working on their departmental budgets. We started our strategic plan last year, and everything that we do has a purpose. Where is it going and why? And if it's not part of the plan, then we have to figure out where it falls on the priority list. So once we do our departmental review of budgets, everything will be consolidated, presented to the board with all final expenditures. One thing I will show you on here is that we are projecting this budget to be a zero budget, which means if our revenues are $17,700,000, that's all we can spend. So if you notice at the 24 and 25 fund balance, that number is pretty much the same. Meaning at the end of the year, we only spent the money that we brought into the district that year. We didn't tap into any reserves. Now, that could change if priorities change. However, based on the priorities that we have as a district now, that's where we are. So I say all of that to say our district is in great financial health. As we continue to look forward to the upcoming school year, we continue to have a mind of strategy. What sense does it make? What benefit does it have on teaching and learning? And essentially, what benefit does it have on the community, good or bad? And then, so as I said, in May, tonight we're presenting revenues. In May, we will present expenditures and the final budget to be published in the newspaper. And then in June, we will host the budget hearing for adoption. And then the budget will begin on July 1. Are there any questions? I know that was a lot of information, but I hope you received it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
At one point, we had someone who was doing the grants for us. What happened to that?
So the grants that were being done, there was two people actually. One was a Dr. Rice who did the competitive grants. Those are extra. Those are not grants the district is entitled to. Those are grants that somebody writes and you petition for them, and if you win it, you win it. At one point, there was a young lady, Jill Dare, who managed a lot of the grants. When I came here, we transitioned out with Jill. Jill was not an employee, which was a huge challenge for writing grants for the district. And let me make a point about school district grants. School district grants are not the same as grants for a not-for-profit agency or a public entity. The grants we receive are called entitlements. You're gonna get them if Dr. Alexander writes it, if Joe Blow writes it, or if the state has to write it itself. It's an entitlement based on your school district's population. Grants are managed on a day-to-day basis. You don't just write the grant, that's the end. They're managed on a day-to-day basis. They're programs. So when we talk about our low income, how are we supporting low-income students on a daily basis? We recognize that our district is classified as totally low income, right? So what are we doing on a daily basis to make sure we're supporting that group of students? Our bilingual program, we receive a grant allocation for that. How are we managing that on a day-to-day basis? So all of our grants are now managed in-house in the academic services department. They're managed in-house, and we're doing well. This story.
Okay, yes, that was a couple of them. So first, to piggyback on Ms. Dixon, when you said Patrick Rice, he was in there writing our grants, you said that's extra. Wouldn't we need all the extra we could get if in fact, with your job and what you're doing, there's somebody in here that's actually writing for those grants? I do know you said he's Joe Blow, but he was writing for those extra grants, those entitlements. So we just want to know, did he just stop service or did you let him go?
No, so Dr. Rice and I actually submitted for a competitive grant about 2 weeks ago. So again, Dr. Rice submits for competitive grants. That's totally different than the grants we operate our district on every day. Here's the other part that I have to say. You have to be careful when you go after all of these grants, right? You're expected to spend all of your grant money. Well, we already have grants that because we have all this extra money, we struggle with spending our Title 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's an obligation. The federal government requires that you spend your entitlement money before you get any of this other money. And so you have to be careful when you don't get all of these extra grants. Our auditor is gonna give some information that's gonna blow your mind about how many, make sure you hit on this, how many days of reserve we have and what exactly that means. So when the auditor talks about that $34-35 million fund balance compared to what our annual budget is, it's going to make you think a little bit different about getting extra grants. Yes, it sounds like all money is good money, not saying that the program is not, but it's just the management of the additional cash flow. So at some point, we have to get to the point where we start spending down the cash that we have before the government says, the state and the federal government says, you all have too much money on your own. We're gonna cut you off until you spend it. So I'm all for grants. I think grants are outstanding. But again, you have to be very careful with what you carry on your portfolio at any given time. Right now, grants for ISBE are very slow. Most of the grants were associated with COVID. COVID came with mental health money, digital equity, teacher quality. So because COVID is gone, a lot of those grants have dried up. The grant we applied for is mental health and social emotional. That's something that we desperately need support with here in the district. It's not a large grant, but it's enough to continue supports that we've had for our students in the past.
Thank you for that. I just don't want us to get passed by. I do understand what you're saying, and we have to spend the money. However, I just don't want us to be passed by because it's extra. But we can't, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot of different projects that we could think of and be creative. Ask some of the teachers, ask some of the parents, and what we could use with that extra money for our school and our students. One other question, you stated the budget was the 17 million for 24-25 that you estimated. So the 2024 fiscal year, that was like 21 million. And then you said the budget for 17 million, that's what we'll actually get. So then wouldn't it be a carryover of $3 million, $3,800,000? That's the carryover?
No.
So how did that work?
So when you look at the, can you see my cursor? Right here. So just this number alone, you had $2.95 million, $2.95 million that you had in 24 for ESSER. When that money is spent, it's just gone.
Okay.
So that's 2.9 right there that you won't see again. You come down to this next line, which it says federal grants, that's another 500,000 that's gone. So that's money that's just taken from your overall premise. So that's how we get back to that pre-COVID number, that's 17.
All right, thank you.
I just wanna say, I'm gonna have to agree with Ms. Story. You said, and once you say we're done with the grants, but then we can't get any more grants, we should get any more, we should be careful about the grants that we receive. Is that correct?
That's correct, and I really want you to hear what I'm saying. It's not the fact that we don't have problems or challenges. We do. But we have a very healthy fund balance at the district level that we could be funding some of those things. And Don will tell you, there's legislation, and they've been trying to pass it for years, that say if you're over so many days of budget or so many days of cash, that the state is gonna say, we're not gonna pay you until you get down to this number. Almost like at your job when you have sick days. Either you use them or you lose them and you're not gonna accumulate. So we've been fighting that language for a long time, but we're still a government agency and not for profit. So you still have to maintain the amount of profits that you bring in. Unlike social service agencies or foundations, we still have a limit as to where we can, how much money we can have on hand. I'm almost like about to tell them, I'm trying not to steal the auditor's thunder, but when you really see what that 34, 35, and actually the 34 million is advanced of what he's reporting because we've made even more money since July 1. But when you see what that really means and the negative impact such a large fund balance can have, then it makes you think differently. So grants, they're just that. You spend your money, you get the money right back. Your savings account does not go down with grants. It either stays the same or it grows. So again, I'm not against grants. I think grants are great if used in an appropriate way and if they also meet the financial confines of your district. So I would just like to say I'm very proud to have this conversation as superintendent. There are so many districts that are in financial distress who are looking for loans, tax anticipation warrants just to get them to pay their next week. So District 132, and that's kudos to the board, to the previous administration for getting the district's financial health to this point. But if we want to maintain it, we have to make different decisions than we have in the past. Ms. Brown, I see you have your mic.
I do, I just some clarity about how, we talked a lot about we, and I'm just wanting to sort of get an understanding of the process of responsibility for making some of these decisions about priority. How you see that in terms of hierarchy and who gets, how do you come to these priorities? I guess my question, what's the process?
So we start the budgeting process probably in January. And the first part of it is the administration. Every department looks at their spending. What did they do? Why did they do it? How? I'll use facilities. Facilities is probably one of the biggest cost centers of the district because you have to keep the facilities up of the building, the grounds of facilities. And so when we start talking about what's priorities for your department, that would be, okay, we need to replace the roof at this building. We need to replace the floor at this building. We need to build an additional whatever. That's how we build a priority list. If it's academics, academics says that we have not done a curriculum adoption in 5 years. We need to do a curriculum audit and do a curriculum adoption. Technology, we need to purchase Chromebooks, iPads, whatever technology, because things are on the, what's the word? They're phasing out, so we have a 3-year life cycle. So that's how the priority list goes. We look at our annual test data. If we have a school that's in school improvement, what additional supports are we providing that school? Is that extra people? Is that extra resources, extra professional development? So that's essentially how the priority list goes. We start with the strategic plan, say what are our goals 3 to 5 years out? And then once you narrow it down, what specific activities have to be in place in order to meet those goals? Any other questions? All right, so as I said, we will be back. I want to commend my administrative staff. They work very diligently to be judicious about district spending, but more than anything, they work very diligently to make sure that our students have everything that they need to be successful. This budgeting process is not easy. There's a whole lot of no, because some things are just not in the priority list, some things are not on the top of the priority list. But more than anything, there's a lot of conversation and strategy about what's in the best interest of our students. I'll give you one before I sit down. Our students participated in this conversation last year when they told us the thing that they hated most about District 132 is the food. And so because of that, that was one of our priorities to reimagine what food looked like. So last year we were able to make some advancements, step advancements with our food service provider. But this year we're moving into a totally different dynamic for food. All of our food will be cooked in-house in the district. So it won't be shipped in pans and frozen. And the goal is for the kids to eat. So that's how our priority list look. We take what's important to our stakeholders and then figure out how to make it happen. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Number 6, consent agenda items. Suggested hereby move that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, and D as presented. May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Golar. Second by Ms. Dixon. Question?
Consent agenda item C, not all of the policy, but we did discuss, updating that policy, or we could talk about it. Could you remove 7:190? That was the student behavior. And 7:60, that was the residents. So we can vote on that separate?
That's not in consent.
Oh, sorry, it sure is. Well, that's a C, right?
No, that's,
Minutes.
It's not, thank you so much for clarity.
So I'd like to vote for, I'd like to remove accounts payable just so I don't have to vote no on the other things. I've got some concerns about the accounts payable. Could we,
So you wanna remove what, which one?
the B2,
Are you saying D or B as in boy?
B as in boy.
Okay. So, B2, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're moving B2, it's voting separate. So everything else, which is A, A1, A2, B1, C1, and D. There was a motion already, so roll call, John?
Yes, Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Story,
Yes.
Harris.
Yes.
Items A, B1, C, and D carried.
Okay. So B2, may I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Dixon, did you motion? Okay, who motion? Okay, motion by Ms. Brown, second. Ms. Dixon, second. Question?
Yes, so again, I appreciate the report on the summer camp. We clearly have some food insecurity issues in the district. I have repeatedly asked about one particular vendor who again shows up. And I again am concerned that we are, given that there are so many vendors who could provide food, that we continue to at this point, I think we're up to $35,000 upwards for this particular vendor. And for this reason, this is the first reason why I cannot vote for this. The second concern I have is a question about Follett, and this is just an observation. I looked at the books that we are ordering from Follett, and given the number of Latinos in this district, I am a little concerned that we are not meeting those needs. We are celebrating Black folk, which is great, but there were very few books on that Follett order that address the needs of, I think, the Latin students. For that reason, I'm not going to vote. And finally, I am concerned that we are sending folks to, it looks like it was a $3,000 payment for a conference that's to happen next week. I think the 24th and 25th. I'm concerned about sending board members to that. And so for that reason, cannot vote for this accounts payable.
Okay, roll call, John.
Yes, Brown,
You have a question? A question, yes,
Well,
ma'am.
not a question, but a statement about something that's on this account payable. Can I make that statement now?
You gonna ask superintendent?
Yes. Okay, on the account, it shows that we purchased services first 2 quarters of, it said Thornton Township Trustee of Schools. And it said purchase services, first 2 quarters of Thornton Township Treasurer fee. And it's $86,217.50. And then it said purchase services, Thornton Township Treasurer, fiscal year 23 deficit fee, which is $52,011. Okay, we have Calumet Township School. So why aren't we writing the checks to that? Because Mr. Rolette and Mr. Octavio, I can't think of his last name, Octavio, they're the 2 people on that board. But Sheehan is on that board also, along with 5 other people who are on Calumet Township Board and on Thornton Township Board. So our check should be written to Calumet instead of Thornton, because Thornton is in a lot of trouble now. That's the one with Tiffany.
Well, thank you for your question. I think you raise a great question, and I think it's a good opportunity to address this. Let me just, one part that was incorrect. The Thornton Township is totally separate than the Thornton Trustees of Schools, totally separate. So that has nothing,
About what's here.
I understand, I'm just saying, the Thornton Township Board
yeah,
is
that
totally
was so
separate.
Yes.
Calumet Township encompasses School District 132, Calumet Park, and District 133, George Patton. However, Calumet Township Trustees of Schools does not have a treasurer. They outsource the work to the Thornton Township Treasurer's Office. And they've done that for many years. Honestly, Calumet Township Trustees of Schools could not afford to operate a treasurer's office just off of 2 schools. So the 2 schools, 133 and 132, we go and fall into Thornton Township. And that's by an intergovernmental agreement. So we actually do not choose where we go, Calumet does. Now, and I'm sure you've been told this, but we've had that issue and that conversation since before I came here. I know Ms. Brown has been talking about that for many years. So that is definitely a challenge. I can honestly tell you that the Thornton Township School Trustees Office under the leadership of Mark Sheehan has greatly improved. Greatly improved. Bills are paid on time. If you notice, you're receiving documents and board reports on time. That was not happening before. So I am very pleased with the growth. Not saying that it's perfect or it's 100%, but Thornton has done a yeoman's job of cleaning it up. As it relates to these bills, I, along with other superintendents in the area, we fought very hard to get these bills. We didn't get bills at first. Essentially, they just took the money out of your account. You had no say-so, no jurisdiction. And so we petitioned them to send us an invoice and we pay the bill. So that's the first bill, I think the $86,000. That's our standard bill. I think the contract is $149,000 a year, split up into quarters. So we paid the first bill, which was $80-something thousand. The second bill, which I think was $50-something, which was deficit spending. The Treasurer's Office has had to go through a whole lot to get to where they are. You may not know this, but I've been here since July 1 of 2022. The Treasurer's Office has gone through 4 treasurers since then. Mark Sheehan's been there, a year, almost a year and a half. So he's been there to build consistency. As a result, they've had to pay additional consultants to come in to help get books on, get the books together, to do other accounting functions. They've had to pay auditors to come in and do forensic audits because there was suspicion of financial improprieties. And so the Treasurer's Office essentially exists because of the districts that it serves. So the cost or the excess of the cost, that falls back to the districts. So that's why we have to pay that additional cost. Now, we are in conversation because that cost was not approved first. So usually we'll say, even though they have the trustees as board members, they still meet with the districts because we have to work together on a day-to-day basis operationally. So if there was going to be an increase in operations that was gonna raise our bills, then usually a conversation would have been had. But in all honesty, they've been operating in survival mode. So we are now having our audit read tonight. We're about 4 months late. Our audit for last year was almost a whole year late. So, they've had to pay extra money for support and services to get the Treasurer's Office running. So that's why we bear the additional cost.
My next question is, when I look at this accounts payable, I'm looking at the dates at the top, and I have a March 8th, and we're just now paying it now, but I do have the up-to-date part. So what was the problem with the March 8th?
We pay everything a month behind. So we're paying the March bills and March payrolls right now. We're approving. So everything is approved a month behind. We never approve the current month.
Okay, but I have many sheets that says 4/18 at the top. So
That's probably when it was printed. 4/18, that's
Yes.
today. Oh, no, that's because you're approving it today.
Okay,
That's the check date.
so that's the check date, but then we have March 8th as the check date too.
Those are probably supplemental. So there's 2 types of payment we make. There's
Okay.
supplementals are payments we make on a weekly basis that we have to make these payments. We can't wait for board approval. Those are your bills, your utilities, and then you have the, your regular standard board packet is what's dated 4/18.
Okay.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, about the traveling for, I'm gonna make it clear, for the board members and the staff. Didn't you say that was a grant that we have or money put aside for the traveling and for the board members and the staff?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking that question, I had a problem with it at first myself because it seemed to me that as board members, yes, okay, it seemed to me as board members would go on trips and have a great time and go to the meetings, but yet come back here, same old. So that was my problem I had. But I wouldn't want to stop anyone from getting more education for whatever the school, as far as the staff or the board members. So I said that to say, I just wanted to make it clear that these was grants that we were using to go on board. You know, it's not coming out of the school funds as far as the districts paying for it.
So the conference that you're talking about is the Black Educators Advocacy Coalition, which is actually led by Dr. Rice. It's really an instructional conference, but it has a place for teachers, administrators, parents, board members. So we are taking a van, I think it's 10, 11 people to the conference in Champaign. We'll drive down that morning, Friday morning, come back that afternoon. But and it's paid for out of our community partnership grant. It's an outstanding opportunity to bridge the gap between what happens in the classroom for students, what that looks like from the student perspective, from the teacher perspective, from the parent and the community perspective, as well as administration. We've attended this conference, I believe this is the third year that the district has attended, and board members were invited to come. It's a great learning opportunity to get a better understanding of what happens in the classroom and why.
Well, one more thing, I just want to say I was able to attend the parents' conference and I thought it was excellent, you know, as far as us, and I see members that's in the community that also attended. And I thought it was excellent, so as far as people getting educated on things, I have no problem with it, including myself.
I just have a quick question. Dr. Alexander, when this 52,000, was that split hopefully equally amongst all the other districts for this deficit fee
So
that they charged us?
in part, yes, but for Calumet Township, it was a little bit more because they had to do extenuous work to get our audits completed. And I'm sure Don can talk about it because he was a huge part of that. They can't get the audit to the district until they get all of their financial stuff done. The number 72 sticks in my mind, but there were 72 bank accounts. And these bank accounts could have been like 10, 15 years old, where some of them got $3 in it, other ones have 200,000, other ones have $1 million. So it was a lot of work to back out of that process. So that's where the fees came from. So yes, a good portion of that was spread amongst the 13 schools in the township, but some of that was borne directly by Calumet Township schools.
Thank you.
Thank you. John, roll call. Ms. Kimberly.
Quick question in terms of the 3-year, on the accounts payable, there was a 3-year care pack pickup and return with accidental damage. What does that mean?
I believe that was our Chromebooks. Is that, Ms. Martin, are you back there?
I'm sorry.
The 3-year care pack, that's for the Chromebooks, correct? So anytime we have a Chromebook that's damaged or needs repair, they send us a box through FedEx or UPS. We put the Chromebook back in it, send it to them, they fix it, repair it, replace it, and that's part of our warranty.
Roll call, John?
Yes, Brown,
No.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Present.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
No.
Story,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
motion carried. Item B2 carried, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Number 7, action item, approval of school year 2022-2023 audit and annual financial report. Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve the June 30th, 2023 audit financial statements for Calumet Public School District 132 as presented. May I have a roll call? Oh, you, okay. Okay.
Alright, well, my name's Don Shaw, I'm a principal at Lauterbach and Naaman, I've been doing the audit. Basically since we started with Lauterbach and Naaman, I would say probably 7 years ago. So I know the district pretty well. Before I start, I wanna thank Dr. Alexander and the entire team for all their help throughout this entire process. Without their help, this is not possible, so appreciate all of your help. Before I start, I do want to say, to touch on Dr. Alexander's points in his presentation, on top of the financial structure that you guys are in right now, for 2023, you guys had a 3.9 financial profile score, and that's out of 4. So you guys had a really good year in 22-23. So next, I'm going to go through the annual financial report with you, which is the thicker of the packets you received. And it's the bound copies. And if you turn to page 1, you'll find our Lauterbach and Naaman letterhead. This is our independent audit report in which we provide a modified opinion. That modification is due to the fact that the district reports on cash basis, which is not in conformance with GAAP. So that modification is no different from the previous years. The one disclaimer that we had to provide was due to the township treasurer pooled cash and investments. At the time of the audit, as Dr. Alexander touched on, there was a lot of transition throughout the year. They were not able to provide us with a pooled cash and investments reconciliation of what was held at the treasurer on behalf of the district. So without that reconciliation, we could not provide an opinion over the pooled cash and investment, so that's why there's that disclaimer.
Where you going with, right with that, I did have a question. So with that disclaimer, based on the cash at hand that you've seen within our district, that's what this audit is about, not with, if not coinciding with the treasurer's office, is that what you're saying?
So the township treasurer has a pool of cash investments that they hold on behalf of all the member districts. So we don't have access as the auditors, we don't have access to those files because they have a separate audit, we don't do the audit. So without those reconciliations and really knowing and testing, okay, of the entire investments that's held by the treasurer, we can't test to see if the accuracy of the percentage that's owed to the district. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as Dr. Alexander said, 2022-23 was a very challenging year for the treasurer. So they had a lot of carryover and transition. So I've been working with Mr. Sheehan as well, and hopefully we can get it cleaned up and get rid of that disclaimer for next year. Next, I'll go through your individual fund financial statements, starting with the balance sheet on pages 7 and 8. On page 8, on the far right column, you'll notice that the total cash on hand was at $31.3 million. As Dr. Alexander touched on, that's at 596 days cash on hand. So that's you have a lot of cash for how much expenses you had in 2023. And your fund balance towards the bottom, you'll see, was at an ending fund balance of $31.2 million. That fund balance is 156% of your total operating expenditures. So you have a very healthy fund balance compared to what your expenditures are on an annual basis. Next, I'll go through the income statement with you, which is on pages 11 and 12. On the far right column, on page 12, you'll notice the third number to the bottom. The district had a $2.7 million increase in fund balance in the current year. So that's primarily due to your expenditures being below budget in fiscal year 22-23. The notes of financial statement will begin on page 14. And the notes really provide further detail into how we came up with the figures that we did with supporting schedules. Within there, you're gonna find your long-term debt and your capital asset schedules. I'm not gonna go through the notes with you tonight, so I'll have you skip ahead all the way to page 65. Page 65 is the start of your budgetary information, so if you wanna see how a specific fund performed based on what's budgeted, this is where you want to go to see those comparisons. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh,
So as far as the property taxes, did we get more or we got less?
So I don't have the historical data in front of me, you might have a schedule in the back, give me 1 second, see if I can find it for you. I don't have that information in the audit report, Dr. Alexander might be able to help out with that.
I think she just simply asked him from page 65 where it shows a variance with the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying the historical collection, sorry. So, yeah, page 65, it's showing that you budgeted $3.9 million, but you only received $3 million. So as Dr. Alexander mentioned, you don't receive 100% of what was extended for your taxes. You received under what you were projecting.
Received under what we requested, asked, okay.
So the other part, this was also the first year that we had to abate taxes because of the property tax relief grant. So I think our property tax relief grant was $600 and something thousand. So that's $600 and something thousand that comes out of taxes. And then as I reported, our tax collection rate was lower. So that's why that number looks that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, question?
I'll say bye. Till the, cause I have a question about the management letter, but I'll ask it.
Well, mine's about, are you finished with that? I just wanna talk about the material weakness.
Yeah.
Are we going to that page or
Yeah, we can touch on that right now if you like.
page 87? So as far as, this is your finding, I see. So as far as this is, even though we have not received a bank reconciliation from the Calumet Township, you recommending that even though we haven't received it, that the school district do their own, correct?
So, not necessarily. The reason for the material weakness is because we're disclaiming that opinion. There's obviously, on a monthly basis, those reconciliations from the treasurer should be provided to the district and should be reviewed. So 2023 was hopefully an anomaly where the township treasurer was behind, which is why our audit was behind. So in order for us to provide that disclaimer, we also have to include the material weakness because of the reconciliations not being performed.
Okay, so then that's why. So then, just looking at this, I do understand the disclaimer. So just the requiring the monthly, so still the district should keep their own. So when the township finally get it together, we'll have that so we can we could compare the two. Or, we could cross-reference the two. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so you do have your own cash that the district has in your account. But the pooled cash and investments, it's basically all the member districts' investments pooled together. And it's based on an allocation, correct me if I'm wrong, it's based on an allocation per each district. So the fact that we didn't have that reconciliation, I would hope that the township treasurer is providing the district with their reconciliations on a monthly basis.
Another part of that, Ms. Story, the district does not manage the bank accounts. We have an account that we manage, it's almost like, the day-to-day account, so all
Student
the
activities.
student activities. And when we request to see bank statements, because there are times when we'll have a vendor to call and say, I didn't get my check, so we have to go back to the bank statement to verify did it clear or not. So we'll call the treasurer's office to get that statement. But think about, unlike most personal homes, you have one bank account. Our district probably has 40 bank accounts. And that's your operating account, all of these pooled investment accounts. There's some Impress accounts that don't have much money in them. I know Mark Sheehan has been working to consolidate a lot of those accounts. But again, it's not just one account. So it would be almost impossible for the district to do a reconciliation. Now, what I do on my end is I look at the state website where they publish all of the revenues that districts get. So like we just did third quarter grant reimbursements. I'm looking every day, did the money hit? So that I can do a personal check and balance on the treasurer when they give us our treasury report. Is that money being recognized back in the district? And so I previously served as a treasurer, so I had to do that in-house. I'm looking at cash flow. Do we have enough money coming in on a consistent basis to make payroll, to pay all of our bills? So all of that in Cook County is done by the treasurer, but as a good measure, I still try to do as much as I can at the district level, just to make sure. But to answer your question, it's virtually impossible for the district to reconcile the accounts because we don't have access to them.
So really quick, just to you, real quick, when you talk about the fund balance, like the operational, the transportation, all of those, are those different bank accounts? Or is it just the different numbers?
I can't answer that because the treasurer's office gives us the fund balance report. So I don't necessarily see what accounts they went to get there, but we just get the ending report.
The ending report.
Who motioned and who seconded?
I still have a question. Are you finished with your report? So can you talk a little bit about what the management letter is, what's its purpose?
Yeah, so the management letter is just our recommendations to the district and to the board on areas to improve. So we had 4 current year recommendations. 2 of them are really just a heads up that there's 2 GASB pronouncements that are coming down the pipeline. So that's just more of an awareness to the board that we'll have GASB 100 and 101 to be implemented in the coming years. There's nothing that you guys need to do on your end, it's more for us and giving you the acknowledgement that yes, these are coming, to give you the heads up. We did have one best practice, that was in regards to the budget. The budget detail that was included in the financial software didn't match what was submitted to actually ISB. So we always wanna make sure that that matches what's sent to the state. So we did have some variances within there that was a software system issue at hand, so we had to provide that as a best practice.
You're saying the treasury software or the school district, how are you?
It's provided by the treasurer, correct?
Correct, so we provide the budget to the treasurer's office. And then, so Ms. Brown, think of it like District 132, we do 65% of all finances. The other 35 is done at the treasurer's office. By the time it gets to the treasurer's office, sometimes their software programs do different things, account numbers are different, so sometimes it has a negative effect. We're actually working on that now for next year's budget to make sure we don't have that. I mean, it's really an easy fix, but in transition between their system and our system, that's where it happens. So, and I've looked at the numbers, it's not material, like a major, but some account numbers are different in the system than it is the budget. And ISB wants to make sure that everything is the same as what the board approved and what you submitted. So we are on top of that one.
Okay, cause I know we've done this before, what I was concerned about was that we were overlooking a statutory requirement by not bringing back a variance of 10%. on the budget. I know we've done it a couple of times in the finance committee where the staff has come back and said we are over by 10% on certain line items. And if that's happening, then I again wonder if maybe we needed to maybe increase our capacity at the financial level with a CSBO, who can make sure that we're not missing some key reporting.
Well, the good thing about it, as the auditor said, we're below. So that's how we run a surplus, $2.7 million surplus. We're below our budgeted actions. And that comes from effective budgeting. And then one of the pieces that kind of helps is that we're not to full capacity with our teaching staff. So when you have vacancies, those are dollars that you budget, but you don't actually spend them. So, you know, we tore a really tight line so that we don't have to go back and amend the budget later.
And then finally, is there some best practice around how long you, what's best practice around the relationship between the auditor and the client? How long should that exist before you reevaluate?
It varies, like we have some clients that we've had for 20 years and we have some boards that have a mandatory requirement. But it's really comes down to like board policy. So I always am a firm believer that this is a long-term relationship. It's so that we can help the district however we can as we build the knowledge of the district finances.
John, who motioned?
No one yet.
May I have a motion? Second?
Second.
Dixon? Roll call.
All right, Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Story,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you.
Thank you for your time, enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you. Approval of 2024-2025 school calendar. Suggested motion be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve the public school calendar for 2024-2025 school year as presented. May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Golar and second?
So, second,
Second by Ms. Brown. Roll call?
Brown,
no.
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
No.
Story,
No.
Harris,
Yes.
motion carried.
Letter C, approval of adoption of policies, Press Plus issue 113. Suggested motion be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve the revisions to the board policies that were first read at the board meeting on February 15th, 2024, as presented. May I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Kimbrough. Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Dixon. John, roll call?
Question. So could we, instead of approving all of them at once, could we just remove the student behavior to make sure that we can update that? And then 7:190 and then 7:60, the residents.
So can I add to that? Mr. So we discussed during the board meeting that we would call all 5 of those separately.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
we have the, Madam Chair,
Is this, wait, I'm sorry, but before we do that, are we approving, because it's it's more than just the 5? Because we're approving Press Plus issue 113. So it's more policies than just those 5.
so I think the understanding was that everybody was okay with all of the other policies.
Yeah, we were.
And then the 5 that the board had to make a decision on, those are the ones that you all wanted to pull separately because you had other questions.
Correct, but we didn't vote, the vote failed at the last meeting with the policy. We talked
Well,
about,
I'm talking about when we had our committee to hold on Monday.
correct,
But she was speaking as far as the whole
the,
113.
exactly, because it's more policy, so we didn't vote on the,
That's what I just said. So what we talked about in the committee of the whole,
correct,
everybody was good with all of the other policies, but the 5 that we had to make an individual
We
decision on.
can't vote in the committee of the whole, so we have to bring it
That was,
back,
I'm saying, that was the
Yeah.
agreement, so
Yeah,
that's why we
agreement.
prepared it to vote it this way tonight.
that we'll still vote on the 5.
Yeah, we'll vote, when we vote to,
Yeah, because I'm,
right, we're voting on 113 as a whole, but the 5 are pulled out. We'll vote
Okay.
on the 5 separately so that you can
Okay.
voice your opinion.
there,
One.
all right, thank you for that clear.
Okay,
Yes,
so
okay,
roll call.
yes.
So we can't, 1 second. So this is voting on the policies itself, even though we remove it, we'll have to come back and vote on it again under the policies,
So
on the 5s, because it's all grouped together.
so
We pulled them, so we're gonna vote on 113, and then after that vote, then we'll go through the 5 individually.
So the vote, just to make it clear, this vote is for policies 113 with the removal of policy 5:250, 6:230, 7:60,
7190.
and 7270.
Okay, I understand that piece, all I was just saying, it's not in here
Okay.
to motion,
We got that.
okay,
This
that's
is
what I
for
was
the
just saying.
113, but
Well,
we
if
wanna
we,
keep accruing fines on it.
correct, so the motion needs to be changed then, because you have to state that those with the removal.
I'll state it as it's
Okay,
read.
Thank you.
I'll state it.
Thank you. That's
All right, so we're voting on,
Okay, this vote is for, the approval of the revisions of Press Plus policies 113 with the removal of 5:250, 6:230, 7:60, 7:190, and 7:270 to be voted on separately.
yes. So we already have the motion,
Okay,
first and second, so roll call, John.
yes, Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough, Love,
Yes.
Story,
Yes,
Harris,
Yes,
Press Plus issue 113 approved with the removal of the 5 policies.
right. Approval of policy 5:250, leave of absence. Suggested motion be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve policy 5:250, leaves of absence as presented. May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Golar, second.
second.
Second by Ms. Story. Roll call, John?
Yes, Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Story,
Yes,
Harris,
Yes.
policy 5:250 carried.
Okay, approval of policy 6:230, library media program. Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve policy 6:230, residents,
No.
library media,
I'm sorry about that.
library media program.
6230 is library.
May I have a motion?
so moved.
Motion by Ms. Story, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Roll call?
Yes, Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Story,
Yes,
Harris,
Yes.
policy 6:230 carried.
Thank you. Approval of policy 7:60, residents. Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve policy 7:60, residents as presented. May I have a motion? Why is it taking so long? I mean, God. Motion by Ms. Dixon and second by Mr. Golar. Roll call, John?
question.
Okay, question.
So the question about the residency, it was discussed about staff, district staff bringing their kids here tuition free. We had that discussion, however, maybe it could be just they reduce the tuition, if they wanna bring their students or their kids to school, this district. So that's it, cause at one point we discussed, it was mixed votes as far as, no, they're not bringing their students here, their children here. They'll have to pay tuition like everybody else, but could we just put out there, to change this policy that at least if a staff member, any staff member want to bring their children to this district, they can with reduced tuition.
You have a question?
That's
Or
what
you're
I'm-
just making a statement?
That's what I'm asking, because to vote on, with the rest, I know we said, it was talked about that no, staff members cannot do it, they have to pay tuition, but if a staff member wanted to do it, I'm just talking to the board, asking the board, that it could be reduced, because sometimes, like we said before, that it helps a single parent, if they working and they bring their kids and the kids is in this district, and it's a reduced tuition as opposed to a full tuition, and they can bring their own students, their own children here.
Okay,
So
so
that's my proposal.
all right, so we discussed this already, for one. Two,
We never said reduced.
but and the bottom line is that the staff, they have already given their recommendation. They recommended no, okay? And that is, for
Was it a
whatever,
survey
but,
for the staff?
and I was gonna suggest that.
Okay.
To do a survey, but at the same time, you have to look at it. You're asking residents to pay for someone else that doesn't live here in the community.
It's a reduced tuition. It's not, they still paying. So we have staff members.
So now you're just bringing
Explain.
up just reducing tuition.
Yes, that's what I was saying, that's just reduce the tuition
So why
instead
don't
of.
we do this? Instead of changing policies and all of this stuff, why don't we just send a survey out to the staff? Do you guys agree?
Yes.
I mean, let's just hear from them first.
Yes.
Because obviously, you had staff here that recommended no.
I thought it was just the cabinet, the superintendent and his cabinet, not the entire staff within the district.
Who?
That was my cabinet administration.
Okay, and how did they come up with that suggestion?
So many of what you just said, looking at it from a taxpayer's perspective, more than anything, we have to look at it as if we allow teachers to bring their students at no charge, what precedent does that set?
I said reduced.
Well, the original language in the policy is free, so they come free. And so we have 111 employees. It's conceivable that all 111 employees will bring a child, or could. So the administration's recommendation was no, based on a whole lot of factors, space, utilization, things of that nature. At the board's request Monday, I did transfer this question to the attorney, because there are other implications aside from just saying, yes, you can come for free, yes, you can come reduced. So the attorney has not gotten back to me as to what that means to share with the board. But that was the recommendation of administration at this time not to.
So it was reduced.
Mr. Goldar.
So is it something that we can revisit later through the surveys?
It is. So you can call a policy to the table at any time. So you could approve the policy today as is, you could not approve it, you can bring it back next month after you've received some data from your staff as well as legal counsel.
So Dr. Alexander, I do understand you saying space, but looking at the numbers and the projection of probably students, we probably will have some space. But that's all I wanted, I just wanted to put that out there, maybe we could just look at it for reduce. And sometimes when we say we'll revisit, it never come back to the table. So that's why, with this particular one, if it's a survey for the teachers, if it's a survey for the teachers and the staff, and then we'll just see what they come back with, if it's reduced. We're not saying free, we're saying reduced.
That survey will go out this week, Ms. Story.
All right, thank you.
Make sure that happens.
May I roll call? Or did we do the motion already?
You have a motion.
Okay, roll call, John.
Yes, Brown?
Madam President,
Yes, President, 76.
are we voting on the policy or the rec?
We're voting on this policy.
No.
Dixon?
Yes.
Golar?
Yes.
Kimbrough?
Yes.
Love?
Yes.
Story?
No.
Harris?
Yes.
Policy 7:60 carried.
Thank you. Approval of policy 7:190, student behavior. Suggested motion, be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve policy 7:190, student behavior as presented. May I have a motion?
Question,
First of all, can I get my motion?
so moved.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Brown, second by Mr. Golar. Question?
Ms. Story, make
Yeah.
that motion.
I just wanna, ask if,
Oh, I didn't.
Story Brown.
I just wanna ask the board, when we talked about it the other day, just procedures are in place that the superintendent inform at least the board president, with all the procedures, how the informant go. Because I know at one point it wasn't in there, so we did have that discussion, that the superintendent informed the board president with what's going on with that. Yes. Go ahead.
So I think that's a district procedure and not policy. So
But in that, one sec, in that policy, it stated what needs to be done, and it stated the steps, and the question was aroused about, well, when is the board notified? So that was in the policy, but it wasn't that the board was notified, and then we talked about priority and things of that nature. So I'm just proposing that we add that in the policy.
So if we're gonna do that, we would have to have the attorney. So so what's in green comes from the state directly based on the law. And so there's nothing stopping us from having internal directives, so to speak, but there's a difference between what the actual policy that the state recognizes says. So that's where that conversation came from, Ms. Story, where the board falls, that's separate than what the state is looking at. This is how the state identifies if the district has upheld its legal duty to a student, not necessarily the board.
So the one in the green is the state, and that's what we're talking about, that is the expansion, right?
Yes, do we add all of the kitchen sink to what they did? Yes.
Exactly. So I do understand what you're saying, but within this policy, since we're voting on the policy itself, now we'll have to revisit the policy. I'm just saying if we change add our verbiage to the policy that the board president is notified. Cause it's in the policy itself, who's getting notified, so those are the procedures. It's not the district, it's in their policy. That's it. And then if that language is changed or added to it, it's not about, we already talked about the expansion, that the language is added.
I just have to speak up because a lot of folks are looking at me right now. This is not something that I've discussed with Mr. Petrarca. I know you said you reached out to him after Monday. I don't know what he's started working on with regard to these policies. So I'm not prepared to speak on those at this moment in time.
This is something new that we just brought up.
Can I just, I'm sorry, we may have had, who are you?
My name is Brian Baer. I'm an attorney with Petrarca, Gleason, Boyle, and Izzo. Chris Petrarca was not available tonight. I was very late because of I-80, I apologize. But, that's just not something that I've had the time.
That's all I was just saying.
We can talk about it,
But then it's, once again, we'll have to revisit the policy, and usually it's not revisited, so.
Well, it's a lot of policies we have to revisit. So again, let's move forward, because we wanna stay in compliance. That's the number one key right there. So we wanna stay in compliance. I would hate for the district to have to pay for unnecessary fines for something that we should have already prior to. We just had a committee of the whole meeting, and we almost spent 2 hours in there talking about this. So had we known that this was gonna be brought up, we may have been prepared to do something or say something. So let's just revisit this again.
But once.
Let's revisit this again, because
with all due respect to you, once again, if we, just like we changed the motion before, we can say it again, just to update the language, that the board president at least be notified. With that, it's right there, and then we know that we have to go back and update that language. We still voting on the entire policy, but just update the language, that's all I said.
I just wanna say again for policy, for someone who disregard policies, you are really on the policy.
may I have a roll call, John?
Yes, Brown,
That's how you.
Brown, Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough, Love,
Yes.
Story, Harris,
Yes.
Item, 7:190,
yeah.
cancel, carried, sorry.
It's okay. So approval of policy 7:270, administrating medicines to students. Suggested motion, be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve policy. Sorry. Yo,
Just smiling.
I mean, you want me to continue? Okay, 7:270, administrating medicines to students as presented. May I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Goulart,
Second.
second by Ms. Dixon. Roll call, John.
Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough, Love,
Yes.
Story,
Really fun.
Yes.
Harris,
Yes,
policy 7:270 carried.
thank you. For the sake, for letter D, approval of performances, base compensation for school year 2024-2025 for non-union employees. I'm gonna ask to table this till we come back out of closed session. Okay? And also E, well, what, for D, yes. So we'll just table that. Okay, all right, thank you. So I wanna amend the agenda to move letter D and E to after closed session. No. So, may I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Goulart, second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Roll call, John?
Brown,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Golar,
Yes.
Kimbrough,
Yes.
Love,
Yes.
Story, Harris,
Yes.
alright.
Approval of rain grading, project of Burr Oak Academy. Suggested motion, be it hereby moved that the Board of Education approve the agreement for the rain grading project at Burr Oak Academy valued at $481,000 as presented. May I have a motion? Moved by Mr. Goulart,
Second.
second by Ms. Brown. May I have a motion?
Roll call.
Roll call, sorry. Question.
So, Dr.
You want to use your mic?
Is there a community, organization that meets with, Rainy Ready? Like a community engagement that talked about the project?
So you mean that from the district perspective?
Yes.
So Rain Ready approached the district, we met, I think, sometime in December. Myself, the facilities director, a couple board members, a principal. We also included our district's architect and engineer on those calls as well.
I did a little research, looking at is it Robbins, the storm, in the green, project that they have going and completed almost, on one side of their 135th Street. And I saw that, they are partners as well with Rain Ready, and part of Cook, as well, so that, I put that in here as something to look at, because it is, like Rain Ready and helps with the flooding. Now, one other question, in terms of the documentation on existing environmental contamination provided by the village. Would that be provided by the village if they go in and find something that's contaminated, then the district would pay for that? That's based on.
I can address that. Rain Ready is one of the projects we've looked at very closely. The contract documentation basically just has a clause that says Rain Ready is not responsible for any type of environmental contamination unless they caused it. So that refers to contamination basically that would be discovered, really that you already have here on site. So the district would remain responsible for that, but you're already responsible for it because it's already on your property. You just don't know it yet. And that's very common for a construction contract of any kind. If the contractor comes in and they discover something, they're gonna bring it to your attention, but they're not responsible for remediating it.
Okay, I have.
And I-
about the rain ready, my street was done by that. And we haven't had any flooding and the street is beautiful. They really worked hard. And it took a little longer than they had planned, but then, it came out perfect. Through the storms, we haven't had any flooding at all compared to the way that Winchester was, we would flood. And you had to put on boots in order to get out there, you couldn't get in your car. So now we have no flooding at all.
So again, this is not about flooding, is it?
So the rain ready project, that's what they target. They try to.
They targeted.
They target water mitigation, of which Calumet Park is in a floodplain, so to speak. So they look for different activities around the community to do it.
But that's not what we're talking about tonight. We're not talking about flooding.
So yes, that's why they would do a project. So doing the playground, and let's not say flooding, let's say water mitigation, stormwater
Thank you.
management.
Right.
So if you can find better ways of dealing with stormwater, then it could reduce flooding or any of those mitigating factors.
So at this point, we're not talking about, because we wasn't notified that we were having a problem with flooding. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So why again are we talking about that we have an issue with flooding? I thought this was about a play yard.
So it is about creating a new playground. So I mean, in many aspects, it's just about getting a new playground with a more green perspective.
So,
So not saying that we have a problem,
okay, so.
but it's just an opportunity, that was all.
Alright. So, and from what I've read, from the architects and engineering, they wouldn't suggest it. Excuse me,
Are you asking Dr. Alexander?
I surely am,
Do we have a representative here for Rain Ready?
We-
but I wanna clarify because again, when there was a discussion for the attorney to reach out to the architects and the engineering, do you have that letter?
It's in the board packet. The architect essentially gave a response. One second, please. Attorney, you wanna add to that? I know you can speak on behalf of the attorney side.
Yes, we gave you an opinion letter on behalf of our firm. I actually have not seen the architect's opinion letter, I know Chris did.
Well, my question in terms of that, where the architect mentioned something about a disturbance, the MWRD may have it used or may view it as a disturbance based on the permeable surface or something, or no, what does that mean?
So if you think about Burr Oak, it's a courtyard, so it's a patch of earth enclosed in between four walls of brick. And so what the architect is talking about is once you disrupt that, you don't necessarily know what's gonna be there.
Right.
There is a drainage system right now. I think everything floats to the middle of the playground and then it has like wood chips, so it's kind of permeable. But once you get in there and dig, I think they had concerns of what might happen. And as you pointed out earlier, I think the district would be responsible because it's a pre-existing condition. The other part of it was that they had concerns about after the playground is in, what does maintenance look like moving forward?
That's my question.
Can I, before you,
So,
before you do that though, did you ever send that information to Rain Ready for their ability to rebut or respond to the engineer's question?
Yes, we've sent everything.
I don't think you sent the DLA, I checked that.
The DLA.
So let me just be clear, the engineer was at all of the meetings with Rain Ready, is that correct?
Oh, she's representing for the people you on the committee?
No, I'm saying I was in the meeting with Ms. Harris at both of those meetings.
I'm not on the committee, so let's be clear that you're part of their committee, correct?
Yeah, I am part of the review committee.
Oh, okay, so you're representing them right now?
No, I'm not. I'm responding to your question.
I'm right here. No.
I'm responding
You're
to your
speaking for
question. Ms. Harris, she's here, let her answer.
So,
Why do you have her come up?
excuse me, so again, we're talking, we're talking, and then after we talk, if we shall want the
Are
representative
you
to come.
addressing me as another
So-
board member or?
So again,
as
I asked Dr. Alexander
Right.
the question,
Which
and I
is
would
what?
like for him to answer.
But
Thank you.
what's the question? I'm trying to understand.
Excuse me. You wanna follow through with the letter I just asked you about?
So this, and I shared this with the board, Ms. Brown, I'm almost certain that all of these documents were shared with.
Let's,
They
can we
were.
ask?
said
No,
They
can-
were.
Can we ask her already?
I talked to-
I actually.
I talked to Chris, the attorney,
So
And he
the
sent
attorney
all
had
of
been
that
going
there.
back and forth with their attorney.
Can we just verify since she's here?
Ma'am said they did, they were there.
you know what?
Can we ask?
You know what, you wanna table it?
Sure, sure.
You wanna
She's
table it?
here.
But I do,
Here.
I do have a question. My question is, do we have a person in plan that's gonna maintain this, or do we have to spend extra money as a community to hire someone to maintain this?
This would just fall under our regular buildings and grounds portfolio, it's part of our regular district.
So you're adding more onto it, the regular, so are they gonna get paid more? Because they're gonna have something extra to do, since it's with the rain ready, is that correct? I mean, I'm just
I don't
asking.
think I can speak to that, it's a
No.
board question.
So you know what, first of all,
We're not trying to create other jobs for some people.
so first of all, this is the board's meeting right now. And so we're discussing this right now. And that's the problem that we had before. We never had a time to discuss it. And that, Ms. Brown, I told you and I gave you the opportunity to bring it to the board months back before you even met with Dr. Alexander. I asked of you to take it to the board, let's have a discussion. No, what you did, you performed a Zoom meeting with the superintendent and his staff instead of just talking to the board, and we have a discussion about it. So now we at this point, and I don't really think that we should keep entertaining this event right here. Because again, this was something, first of all, and you know that it was already suggested that we don't move forward. But then a play yard came about, a playground that is. And we didn't have a problem with the play yard. It's just the fact that just to have a new one and for them to spend the money for a play yard. This is why we're talking about this now. It wasn't an issue because Borough Academy, do we flood over there?
That would be a question directly for Mr. Corley.
Oh,
But
and I talked to Mr. Corley and he stated that we don't flood, but eventually, down the line, we can get a play yard anytime. So, but he stated to me, because I asked, that we don't have flooding over there.
Have they built a play yard before? Would this be the first project of a play yard, or?
Ms. President, Harris, we have a person, I know Ms. Dixon asked, do we have a representative?
Sure, we
She's
can have
here.
it. What's your
Can
name?
she speak on?
I'm sorry, your
I'll
name?
go to them.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, thank you for having me. My name is Sydney Van Kuren, I work for Greenprint Partners. We are on the Rain Ready team. This is federal ARPA funding through Cook County. Greenprint is a planning and engineering firm that has been hired by the prime on the project Center for Renewable Technology, CNT for short. CNT is in charge of the steering committee process that gathered community input around how to spend Rain Ready funding in 6 communities here in the Calumet region. And Burr Oak was listed as a priority location, Burr Oak's Academy and School, as a priority area for targeting these funds. An opportunity for green schoolyards, something that my firm.
I think what the board president is referring to is initially Burr Oak Elementary was listed as a project area. And after we went through the preliminaries and looked at it, it was determined that Burke Elementary didn't really have space or anything. And so when we further continued to look, that's where the playground idea for Burke Academy came, but that was not the original project.
So the original idea is just to bring green infrastructure to communities and show how that can be a stormwater solution. Winchester is a case of more severe flooding, but there are other types of stormwater management that green infrastructure can provide, including a lot of co-benefits for schools. And so as part of that whole conversation around community priorities, the school was chosen as an area to consider and discuss with everyone involved, with the superintendent, with the principal, with you all, about whether that would be a good target for the funds. Greenprint Partners, aside from this project, we do a lot, we're, like I said, a planning and engineering firm. We do green schoolyards all across the country, including a lot in Chicagoland. We have references, I think I've provided at some point for you all. You can call up Happy Clients. We've done a lot of these types of projects. Green infrastructure on schools can just be a great opportunity for both the community to experience all the co-benefits of green infrastructure and to deal with stormwater on a local scale. When we visited Burr Oak Elementary, as you guys mentioned, the elementary site was not prioritized, but the opportunity within the courtyard was mentioned as an area where downspouts from the roof were showing pooled water on the ground. I was at that site visit, so that was something that people mentioned at the site visit, that there was water at the base of the downspouts in that courtyard. And so our engineering team and our planning team, and together with all of the partners, stakeholders that were at that meeting, thought that that might be a good opportunity to look into a more permeable play surface instead of the mulch, which is part of the problem, why there's ponding there, water's not draining. So that looked like a great opportunity for us to provide a benefit with a little bit of stormwater management, co-benefits with play yard, and a lot of educational opportunities for the K through second graders who look at that courtyard every day, to provide benefits that the community had prioritized in the engagement process.
So I wasn't aware that, so it was suggested, because you stated that you guys had to spend that money, and you were very persistent about spending the money because there was a certain amount of time that money had to be spent. Am I correct?
The COVID relief money does have timelines associated with it, so we wanted to be sure that the money was able to be spent in this community. We have 6 communities. If we didn't spend it here, it was going to go elsewhere, and we didn't want to see that happen. We want the community who participated in engagement, helping us prioritize, identify the problems in this area, and be able to spend the money here. And because that was something that we had community members in each of our 6 communities, all the other 6 communities are getting their allocation, and we didn't want to see this funding go to another community.
So again, you were working with the village, am I correct?
We've been working with superintendent.
No, not the district, the village.
So we get to be, the process is very community led. So we have a steering committee of local residents. We had our meetings, many of them were in the Cal Park Rec Center. So Director Shaw heard all the positive feedback earlier. He was a host for our meetings. There has been a little bit of engagement at the beginning. I'm 6 months into working at Greenprint, so the community steering committees were set up before I started on this project. So there was some municipal engagement up front to get everything going. And then the entire process for all 6 communities was meant to be community driven. So the steering committees are telling us where they want us to focus, which landowners to talk to target projects in the community to best use these funds for the best.
But it wasn't with the school, it was with the village, am I correct? Because I was there, and I heard you guys only speaking about villages, not school district.
When were you there? Because I may not have been there, I just want to make sure I understand.
Oh, okay, well, you just got here, right? Did she just get 6 months? Okay.
So there was a December 11th meeting, for example, it was a Zoom call, and I know that you were on that call with us to discuss as a first contact with the district, with the school district. Hey, we've had these conversations with our steering committee, they've advised us that talking to you all would be a good idea, and we want to discuss with the school district how we could do a project with you all.
So again, from what the letter stated that you guys
Which letter?
received
Sorry.
from the attorney, our attorney,
I didn't receive any letter from your attorney.
you didn't, but it went to someone. So who is that person?
This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Really?
I
I
think
doubt that.
She's referring to the responses of the contract that came from Chris Petrarca.
So you sent me like a 7-point
Yes,
list of
that's what she,
questions.
yes.
Yes.
So that wasn't a letter from the attorney, that was
That was
questions from.
that's from the attorney, not me. I just
Okay.
forwarded it to you,
Okay,
But you,
and you all responded.
right,
and we responded, yeah, we knew that it was from, that it was coming from them. There was no letterhead on the letter, so that's why I was
But you-
responding in that way.
you
We
seen
were
the
happy to-
concern. You seen the 7 concerns.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
okay.
responded, I personally was a part of the team that put together the responses to those, and so there were several edits we were happy to make. There were a couple that were not edits, they were more like questions or comments to you all to consider. And so I'm curious what the considerations might be, what your responses are to the considerations, because we would love to work with you and to do a project in this courtyard, and if we aren't able to, then we'll go elsewhere.
I just wanna say if it's not a problem, I don't think we should disturb, it's disturb any grounds, cause it could be a problem. So
So-
which means that the district would have to come off with more money.
Is there what is the, may I ask for clarity around the disturbance question, just because I haven't seen that language from the architect?
And I also wanna add that as a 7 board member, this was the second time I heard about it. So when Consuela decided to take it upon herself and talk to the superintendent, and I take it the president was in that meeting as well?
I was just sitting there.
Okay. Well, my thing, as a 7-member board, it would have been very nice if you had went through the protocol. And that's the problem that I have with this board, there's no protocol. Everyone do what they wanna do. So, that's my problem.
So am I allowed to speak now? No, I'm not allowed to speak.
Go. Say.
So I just thank you for coming. I just a couple of observations. One of which is, I'm sorry that you've had to see this, and be subject to what really is just an attack on me personally. And I think if we refer to the letter that was received from the superintendent, I have not engaged in any misconduct. With that said, I wonder why, with all this, why would you still be here? Like, why put up with this foolishness?
So we, as I mentioned, have this funding allocation deadline, and our engineers have kind of set green prints on the hook. If we don't spend this money, or if it doesn't get spent, then we're left holding the bag, right? So we wanna make sure that we're able to spend this money. And so we had a pretty tight timeline, and so we kind of, a month ago, said, we really need a decision on this, otherwise we're not gonna be able to do it. And our engineer said, you know what, we wanna do this project because it's the right thing to do, and will you go back one more time and see if they will do it? And so that's why I'm here again. I'm trying it one more time, and if we can't do it, then we can't do it,
Can you
but-
let us know how much money that you all are spending, and it's no cost to us? And we do understand what the attorney stated, that, yeah, as if like Dr. Alexander said, with buildings and grounds is anything, just like the gym we're doing, we have to maintain that, so that's more time as well, just like the greenhouse, we have to maintain that. So could you tell us how much money you willing to give for this project?
Yeah, there was a project package that I think I sent over last time, and I'm not sure if it's in your materials, but I hope that it is. There are sheets in there from our engineering team that provide some costs about maintenance, and then I can also speak to the whole funding of the program as well. So right now our project is budgeted at $481,000, and so that's federal funding from the COVID relief funding that's funneled through the county, through our team, directly to this project. You would not pay a cent of that money, and that would include the fees for our engineers to design it, as well as pull all the permitting, do construction administration, oversee the construction, work with a subcontractor, we would subcontract out for the construction of it. So I think there was a couple questions from the attorney about liability and like if Greenprint didn't have that coverage. We're a engineering and planning servicing firm, so we can't even hold that coverage even if we wanted to. So that's something that our construction sub-consultant would have, and you all have brought, if that's a concern from the attorneys, we can add that to our subcontractors, contracts with us. And so then that will be covered through our subcontractor, who's the entity that would carry that insurance. And so all of that would be part of that fee, that $481,000 fee budget. And then there is also in that same project packet, a few pages on maintenance. So what we're talking about providing is the permeable, squishy playground permeable surface that would require, I think it's like 15 hours of maintenance or something like that a year, and some like power washing rentals to make sure that it stays clean. And then the subsurface underneath, I think was even less, it was like 4 hours or something a year of maintenance time, and like trash bags to make sure that any debris comes out. It was very low maintenance, and that's something that the Rain Ready program would pay for through 2026, or October I think it is of 2026. And starting after 2026, that would be something that the district would pay for. I would consider it to be a very minimal amount considering the benefit that these kids could have by having this benefit to their program.
I have a question, that sounds real great, that sounds wonderful. But my question to you again, you said you really wanted to help someone, you really wanted to give this money and help a district that was really in need. But we're not really in need, because there's not a problem with it unless, right at this particular moment. So were you so interested in doing this because you have a member on your board that you felt like, that's a question to be asked.
I appreciate the question, I would love to
And I'm not
just
trying
answer
to
it.
attack you, and I'm sorry that Consuelo feels that she's been attacked, but there's a protocol to everything, and everything
Absolutely.
should be followed in order.
So
That's all I have.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Our process for Rain Ready, we had a steering committee that had, I was at the last of 3 meetings that happened last year, so I caught the tail end of it, and for this community. And what we did was had a big prioritization process. It was several months, 3 different meetings to get to a short list of projects. This Burr Oak was not the top project. The top project was the Parks and Rec Center.
But they didn't want it.
They did want it, and we worked really hard with them too. I personally spent several months with Director Shaw to try to see if that project would be a good fit. And the timeline for their project is not a good fit for our funding timeline. So going down the list, then we got to Burr Oak as the next opportunity that the steering committee as a whole prioritized through this process. And so now we're trying to work with you all, and we're running out of time, and it's gonna leave the community entirely if we don't do this process. I'm not trying to guilt anybody into it, that's totally fine, that's just a choice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So roll.
Brown?
I'm gonna pass for now because I've been accused of some things. I will let the rest of the board vote now.
Dixon?
No.
Goulart?
No.
Kimbrough?
This is for the Borough Playground, right?
Borough Academy. Yes, ma'am, 3K2.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Love?
Yes.
Story?
Yes.
Harris?
I can let you say.
Yes.
Harris?
No.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Public comments, policy 2:230. If you intend to speak, please fill out the questions and comments form and present it to the superintendent secretary at this time. The board will be prepared to address those comments related to the agenda within a reasonable time. However, the comments may be forwarded to the superintendent for an individual response. No other discussions or actions will take place. Please remain seated until you are recognized by the board president. Every person intending to speak must come to the podium to state their comments. Please state your name. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes.
Okay, first up we have Janice Harrison.
Good evening. You know, you all need to get together. These people come out of here to hear what's going on in this district, and they get chaos. You get someone who wants to give you a free program, you tell them, take it somewhere else, we don't need it. You need to get together. I see you still don't have a business manager. You're gonna end up like dogs, keep it up. And then, how many immigrants attend our school district? So since I don't ever get any answers, and you say that you will address and respond to the concern of a future date, I have never, ever gotten a response. I get up here and I ask a question, I'm getting the answers because you are not gonna answer the thing. So, and I don't get a response. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. This about, these people attending the school district and don't have to pay tuition. If I'm a taxpayer and my child have to pay, why is it people out of this district can come up in here and don't have to pay? Now, if you think you're gonna do that, and I'm not gonna go around the community and tell the community why their taxes are going up, because people are bringing kids in here and do not have to pay tuition. You're very much mistaken, because they will know, not only what they know, the TV station don't know this one. And I mean that. You're out of your mind up here. And then, I'm just so, you know, I was on the board at one time, and I had the late Abbott Delgado as president. He loved these kids, and he loved the Hispanics, he loved the whites, he loved the blacks, and he worked hard. We have never, ever had a conversation like you all had. You cut off people, you don't want to hear people, you don't want people to say anything. That's right, I'm saying, we don't need a vote. Just eliminate the whole board and let the state come in and take over. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm at that point of asking the state, why is it that they can't come in? Because this is absolutely pathetic. And then you have students sitting up in here, they have to hear all of this garbage that you all are talking. Because that's what it is, garbage. You better get it together. You don't look up, the TV station gonna be up in here, because this is ridiculous.
Who else, John?
Yes, next up is Rachel Slaughter.
Rachel Slaughter.
I just wanted to write.
You wanna go to the podium?
No,
She said,
I just wanted to write and read. I wrote it and I want you to read it.
Oh, you want me to read it?
No, the board. I make some questions.
Thank you,
Ms. Slaughter.
Thank you, Ms. Slaughter.
I just want to.
So why is the district not fighting to keep Mrs. Robbins?
Because I see that she's been.
So Ms. Slaughter, it would be nice for you to come to the podium.
That's my question. That's my.
Okay, so that's, if you got something to say, please, I just read the statement, you have something to say? Please give it to the secretary,
No, that's my question is the same as hers.
but it's only one person at a time. So if you got something to say, I'm sorry, Ms. Slaughter, if you have some, You give it to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Slaughter.
My question is, we finally, cause I've been working over there at Borough since my son goes to Borough. And I live in this district. We have had a previous assistant principal that don't do year half or care as much as she does. When I say she take care of business, I had a problem with my son as far as him getting diagnosed and making sure he get taken care of. She made sure that happened. Why are we not fighting for people like her to stay there? When you keeping assistants that shouldn't have been there in the first place, because they not doing a good job. Assistant principal, that's not doing a good job. But she does an excellent job. I just want to know, why they not fighting to keep her there? That's what I want to know. Because you have never had a staff that cares much or did as much as she does. And I don't care what they say about her, she do an excellent job. Excellent job over there. So why is they not fighting to keep her? And a lot of stuff that she tries to do for us at school, it gets shut down. So is she there just by name, or is she there to make a difference in the school? I just want to know.
At this time, Ms. Slaughter, we cannot respond, okay? But you're more than welcome to have a conversation with the superintendent. Okay, thank you.
All right, next up is Tamika Hawkins.
My question was pretty much the same as hers, like, if you have a good person in the school, why? Like, why not build that person up? Y'all can get rid of one of them. I don't know if y'all ever met Ms. Robbins. Amazing. Amazing person. We kinda upset that she ain't here. She is amazing. And it's just like, it's crazy that she finna leave and it's just, like, what now? Who gonna come take that? Who gonna fill that void with her? Cause the principal before was, sorry, trash. Y'all know. Y'all know. Cause it's, from last year to now, y'all can see the big difference at BO. And that's all because of Ms. Robinson. That's all because of her. And as here just watching, y'all gotta get it together. Y'all got more beef than kids. Y'all beef more than these kids do.
Come on,
And we adults.
come on,
It seems like everything with y'all is personal.
come on.
Everything personal. Y'all adults. Whatever your beef is with her, take that, grill it, eat it. It's about these kids. It ain't got nothing to do with what you going through with her, what you going through with him. It's about these kids. Y'all ain't saying nothing about these kids. Y'all arguing amongst each other. Got an attitude with each other. For what? This ain't what we here for. This ain't what these babies wanna hear. They wanna hear what their graduation gonna be at. What lunch is gonna be like. Right? That's what y'all wanna hear. They don't wanna hear y'all beef with each other. We adults, ladies and gentlemen. And for us to be, this a board full of us. It's a board full of us. And y'all acting fools, like. Y'all ain't playing, like. It's my first board meeting, but I watch it. Y'all playing. Y'all act like that. I just want this board to be better as far as it getting us. And do better for these kids. That's all it's about. My son loves, you my son's best friend. He loves this district. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
All right, next one is Louise McCoy.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My comment has already been addressed, but I'll just follow up or piggyback on it. The young lady right there, I've been in this, she mentioned about the request that staff bring in their children and do not have to pay tuition. I am not in favor. And I think when that type of decision, which affects not just you guys, it affects all of us. Our taxes are extremely high. And for good cause when it comes to education.
Yes, ma'am.
But most districts, most townships, even the city of Chicago, will not let you bring in an outsider on their tax dollar. And I think when you make a decision such as that, you should include some of us in this district. I've been here, like I said, or did I say, it's a long time, since '85. I've seen boards come and go, and I don't make them all. I'm sorry for that. But the ones I do, I gain a little insight on what to do the next election. So, please, I'm not knocking anybody. I'm gonna give you guys a little 1 to 10, give you a 6. What you do for the children, I give you a 10.
That's right.
And like the other young lady said, that's our goal. I'm in the education field, I have a daycare, been here for years, and some of you know me.
Yep.
Some of your children have come through my daycare. So I am about educating our children. But please, some issues, maybe not just seclude yourself. Reach out to one of us, some of us, and ask our input. The survey. That's all I had to say, and thank you so much.
All right, the final one is Natasha Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
It's been a long night. However, I came here because my daughter and a lot of the parents that just left have 8th graders that are coming out of the school district. I know there's been a lot of back and forth in reference to where the graduation is gonna be, the time of the graduation. Most of the information I've gotten has been through my daughter as of late. I was just told recently that the graduation time is moving to 5 p.m. and it's gonna be held in the gym, is what she sent to me. My concern is with 90+ graduates given 2 tickets each in a community as in Calumet Park, where they have a rec center, they have churches, they have businesses that are more than what they have, high schools that can possibly host this graduation and accommodate or make it a comfortable environment for our students. Not sure if those opportunities was explored or who came up with that particular final decision, if that's the final decision, because I was also told it was supposed to be at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. My family is coming in on a Monday. A lot of my family is checking out of the hotel on Tuesday to attend the graduation festivities and go back home. However, if the graduation time is moving to 5 p.m., that now makes me have to go back and conversate with them and reconstruct some plans, because a lot of individuals are expected to be traveling. What is there gonna be for my child to do in celebration after graduation, if the graduation being on a Tuesday is at 5 p.m. in the evening? Is my concern. We did get $80 graduation fee for that, so I'm not sure if anyone has spoken to any of the businesses in Calumet Park or any of the schools that can possibly host graduation at that time to accommodate the students, because in May, in that gym room, my daughter played basketball. A basketball game got really heated, or I'm talking about hot heated, not confrontational. But it got hot, and so 90+ students, again, you're gonna stuff all of us into a gym room where we're not comfortable, we're sweaty, hopefully no elderly person is there that can possibly pass out, you know, in reference to, and then the luncheon. I get it that the parents should possibly pay $50 per person, but the student is also being requested to pay $50. Again, 90+ students, $150 possibly per student, $15,000 roughly for a luncheon. I don't know what the menu is gonna be, I don't know what the agenda is gonna be. I haven't been told anything, and we're less about a month away from graduation.
I'm gonna have you speak with Principal Brown. She can speak to you after the meeting's over.
More than one eighth grade
Thank
parent in here, so I'm just.
Yeah, if you all will see Ms. Brown after the meeting, she can provide you some clarity on that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Any FOIA requests?
None.
Policies first read, Press Plus issue 114. You have anything to say about that?
Can we schedule a date for a committee of whole meeting to review those policies?
Do you have any date in mind?
Sometime.
Or you wanna send
We can
send
set
a
a poll out.
couple of days? Okay.
Probably in May. We'll talk about it. And just so you know, Board, Press Plus's policy 114 is due in July. So you still have some time, but if we could get moving on it rather quickly, that would be best.
So all of that, you see all the policies on here. And that's in your board packet. So closed session, motion to exit to closed session, be it hereby moved that the board of. What is it? It's on the next one. I don't even have it. Oh, Jesus. Board member reports. Anyone has anything to say or? Ms. Dixon?
Yes, I have something to say. I just want to say that I feel the same about Ms. Robinson because I do have a first grader in there and I was devastated when I heard that she was leaving. And I also want to say for you man in the back, yes ma'am, you.
Ms. McCoy.
Ms. McCoy.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I'm saying this to you.
You.
I wanted to let you know that what you said about you being a taxpayer and you concerned about how the money is spent, you would not want a kid in our district that do not live in the district.
Yes.
Okay, well, we had that issue. We had people coming out to make sure that our kids live in the district that they live in.
Yes.
But these three officers. I'm not calling no names. I have not called a child's name in here. This is my report. I am able, yeah, Miss Love is on the board. Miss Love was the one who said the kid live in her house. She sure did.
This is closed session.
No, it's not closed. Listen, community.
Ms. Dixon, can I say something 1 second?
Yes,
Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Love, first of all, we wanna respect everybody's time. This is her minute,
Absolutely.
okay?
And you interrupt like
This
that.
is not a that right there is not a closed session.
No, what she was discussing.
I'm saying that is not protected in closed session.
I didn't call her name.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I did not call it.
So therefore, she has 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
And again, we just heard what community members.
Are we upset?
Ms. Dixon.
No, ma'am. You know what? They sit up in here talking about how we are against each other. We're trying to come together as a board. We are. But you have 3 people on the other end who wants to run, who wants to take over, who wants to, then you have a community member who comes in here who have been on the board forever and nothing has changed when she's on here, but she always got something to say. Now, stay at home, Janice.
You know what?
Okay, so what you gonna do, you know what, motion for closed session, motion for closed session. Motion by Ms. Dixon and second by Mr. Goulart.
Attorney, you can have.
Roll call, John.
We did not even.
Roll call, John.
You need to be out there voting because of the Senate.
Brown.
No.
You're stupid, that's why.
Dixon,
Yeah, you need to be
Golar,
off that boat.
Kimbrough, Love,
No.
With the wrong one, baby.
Story,
No.
I'm gonna call my
Harris.
attorney.
Yes.
I'm gonna let Mr. Attorney handle you.
What I'm not gonna do is, I'm not gonna allow us to do a grandstanding. That's it. I'm not gonna allow us to do a grandstanding. Each board member has 2 minutes to make their statement, and however and whatever they wanted to talk about. You don't get to cut her off. Let's respect each other. She has 2 minutes, and how she wants to talk about her 2 minutes, that is her prerogative. It's called freedom of speech.
Oh.
So, Miss Love, am I correct? Come on, attorney. Take your 2 minutes. Take your 2 minutes. Thank you.
All I'm saying is,
Identify any student.
and I did not.
You heard what he said.
And I did not.
She
Okay.
have her 2 minutes.
I did not call.
So, Miss
any
Dixon, I'm gonna
student.
ask you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Do your 2 minutes.
Thank you.
No student's name.
I have not called a
Then
student
you're
name.
fine. Then you
But I
can
can call
continue.
Ms. Love name.
Then continue.
Okay.
2 minutes.
I can call Sherry name and I can call Consuelo name. You all sit here like, oh, we don't know anything, we haven't did anything. You keep up hell if I've ever seen it. And I'm gonna say this again. You and I will now, talking about somebody going through the community and will go to each and every house out here, I will. And I will let everyone know that we do have a child up in here that's not paid. How about that?
And we have a board member that should be on the board.
Well, I'm on you. Can you please
Not be
talk
on
to
the
one with blonde hair out, with glasses? Yes, put her out. Excuse me, please. It's a lot of disturbance. I'm trying to move on with the board. Can you please?
So I'm gonna be escorted out.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wanna
You're
get a letter
disturbing.
from my,
You're disturbing, ma'am.
you would get a
Thank you,
letter
Miss
from my
Harrison.
attorney, baby.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't curse, I didn't do it.
Please,
She
Miss
called
Harrison.
my name.
Miss Harrison.
I don't wanna hear
Miss
it, you
Harrison,
will hear
can
from
you
my
please leave
attorney.
before everyone?
I want you off the board and I'm gonna work hard to get Miss Harris off that board.
Board members, I would like to thank our parents and
She will
our
be
students
off
for
that
joining us
board.
tonight. I look forward to seeing you all at school
Thank
at
you.
work tomorrow.
Thank you, parents.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
They need to
Ms.
know.
James, beat it. Take all the kids.
We
We're not
have,
out of meeting.
can we have our 2 minutes?
We're not out of meeting. So let's continue. You want your 2 minutes? Cause it failed. So now you got your 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just say that I would like to, because I knew it was gonna be a long meeting, I do wanna prepare a summary of the NSBA conference, but I didn't wanna do it this evening. So I'm just saying that. I'm also I wanted to thank the young people and their parents who showed up to this meeting tonight. Heard you loud and clearly, and that will be part of the presentation that I share next month. And I wanted to, sorry, Ms. Bates is not here, I wanted to congratulate her and the staff on a successful spring program.
Okay.
You got your 2 minutes? Cause you got your 2 minutes?
Okay, I got my 2 minutes. Okay, I'd like you to know that the child no longer goes to this school. He has been transferred and he is so happy because the first thing that I asked him, what do you like about your new school? He says, there's no bullying. I said, okay, that was your whole problem. He said, yeah, everything. So he's quite happy where he is now. And I think that's all, cause I'm in agreement with the parents, what they're saying about us. And I got on this board because I prayed on it. And I asked God, should I do it? And he said yes. And then as things were going through, I said, if I don't get on it, it'll be all right. But then he was the one who put me on this board. No one else. I got help from somebody else, but he was the one who put me here. And I'm here for the children. And I try to do everything possibly that makes the kids and the staff happy. Because I'm a retired educator, and I know how, and administrator, and I know what teachers go through. And I don't want them to be, they have come out of pandemic also. They're traumatized also. We don't know what's going through their lives. We don't know the death they had in their family. We don't know how they're coping because we don't talk about it. We don't ask them too many questions about their life. And we should, because it's quite, when you get to know somebody, you become more of a community and a tight-knit community at that, because you all are sharing the same pain. and some the same happiness too. That's it. Oh, wait a minute, one other thing. We did not vote on this 2 minutes. We had 3 minutes just like the, yes, we did. Yes, we did. We did have 3 minutes. In that packet that you gave us from what's her name, Natalie, she put the 2 minutes in there. She was the one who stated 2 minutes at that meeting. But we've had 3 minutes. We've always had 3 minutes, and we did not pass that package. We did not sign off on it. It's in my bag, I can get it for you.
And Ms. Love, I'm gonna correct you. This is before you even got on the board. The
But
board,
we changed it to
no, we
3.
did not.
Yes, we did.
No, we did not. No, we did
None
not.
of you have ever spoke 3 minutes.
No one changed anything. Ms. Love, we've always had 2 minutes and we've never changed it to 3 minutes, okay? But, John, roll call, please.
Brown? Then you go to closed session.
We want to close session. So, you know what, let me read this thing, because right here is. Be it hereby moved that the Board of Education go into closed session for the discussion pursuant to Section 2C3 of the Open Meetings Act to consider reasons establishing or filling a vacancy on the public body information regarding appointment, employment, or dismissal of an employee or officer, contracts, grievances, negotiations pending, threatened, or imminent litigation, real estate, student discipline, superintendents, and board evaluation performances. May I have a motion? Motion by Ms. Brown, second. Ms. Kimbrough, second. Roll call, John.
Ms. Brown? Yes. Dixon? She stepped away. Golar? Yes. Kimbrough? Yes. Love?
Yes.
Story? She stepped away. Harris?
Yes.
Motion carried. And
Yes.
At 7, thank you.